Welcome to the Heavy Spoilers Show. I'm your host Paul, and in this video we're breaking down The Last of Us. Season 2 episode 6 is now here, and it answers a lot of questions about the show. Next week we're getting our season finale, but first it's time to look back to the past. In this video we're going to be going through the Easter eggs and also talking about how it compares to the games. So if you enjoy it, please hit the thumbs up and make sure you subscribe for our finale breakdown next week. With that out of the way though, thank you for clicking this. Now let's get into The Last of Us.
I hope you do a little better than me.
Okay, so this episode combines pretty much all of Ellie's flashbacks from the game and even adds in a couple of extra ones. They reorder lots of things from the story and thus it delivers a hell of a lot of character moments. For example, the porch scene, that's actually not revealed until the end of the game. There it's delivered in what's probably the last 20 minutes of gameplay, whereas here we're getting it much earlier. We also have what happens with Eugene, which is all brand new. In the game you come across his stash and just talk about what happened with him in the past. An ex-Firefly, he was seen as being lucky because he managed to live long enough to die of old age. There he died of a stroke and didn't have anything hanging above his passing. Ellie and Dina smoked some of his stuff and then the pair had an intimate moment. And that was pretty much it. For the series though, he's used in a really unique way to show how Joel's lies just got too much. He was constantly making life and death decisions for others and lying to the person affected. Ellie figures out from his look when she knows he's broken a promise that she also lied to him and thus puts everything together. In the end, it just gets too much and thus Ellie reveals what happened to Eugene to Gale, which we'll talk more about in just a bit. Where we begin though is with a brand new scene for the show. In general, it's also something we never learned about with Joel and Tommy. The pair's past before we first encountered them was never discussed and neither childhood was ever brought up. Turns out their dad, it was Tony Dalton the whole time, which yep, another brilliant cameo I wasn't expecting. I should have figured it out though, because both are some of the only men who can pull off a mustache in Hollywood. The casting is absolutely perfect though. Later when Joel's leading Eugene to his death, his streaks of grey also look just like Lalo in Better Call Saul, which was such a great touch. But yeah, perfect seeing him play his dad. Going back to Austin, Texas in 1983, we see their dad was a cop. Now in the game, Joel was actually born in Arlington in 1981. We learned this due to the Part 1 remake as we could see the notes in glorious 4K. Now in the show we discover that his dad used to punish them and see Tommy in tears thinking it'll come to him. Joel offers to take the blame though. He tells his dad he was the one buying the drugs and the guy tried to rip him off. He then smashed him like the like button and so on and so forth. However, his dad's already spoken to the kid and also the officers there. He knows it was Tommy and that Joel's taking the fall. Standing up to his father though, he's willing to lie to do what he sees as right. It basically speaks to his whole character and why he lied to Ellie and Gale. Here he thinks he's gonna get the beatings, which means he's gonna be the hero. I definitely think Joel has a savior complex and he views himself as shielding others from pain. Whether that's taking the beating for Tommy or even seeing himself as saving Ellie, he sees him as the person who can make the tough decisions. Even if the people involved don't want him to do that. Looking at you, Eugene. Busting out the beers, his dad then tells him about the time he stole a candy bar and his dad broke his jaw. It clearly messed him up, but he sees himself as being better than his dad, even if just by a little. He says he hopes Joel does a little better than him, and it's quite a touching scene that pays off really well later on. We also get focus on the watch as he touches Joel's shoulder. Throughout the series, this has been a symbol that's tied a parent to a child. And I think that everyone will be able to relate to this scene in some form or another, whether you're a kid or a parent. You understand that sometimes things are difficult and that not everything's black and white. Everything is about perspective and everyone has their flaws. Ultimately, Joel saying this also stops his dad from beating his brother. He brought the truth to the light and showed his dad exactly how he was. In holding up a mirror to his dad, it forced him to reflect and try and see things the way that they actually were, which is something that clearly breaks his dad's heart, and you can kind of see Ellie doing this to Joel in the future. I feel like his dad also sees himself as a bit of a failure, but also feels like he was doing his best. When you're doing your best though and still not succeeding, you know, it can also make you still feel like even more of a failure. Exposing the truth is something that Ellie also does to Joel, but in the end, they are able to grow from this. Well, until Abby smashes his head in. However, it's a very important scene and one that carries a lot of meaning, and I would actually like to see more of these kind of flashbacks with his dad down the line. I do wonder how their relationship changed after this, and if they potentially bridged the gap and had a sort of similar thing to Joel and Ellie. But yeah, whether that comes in season 3 or not, we'll have to see. Either way though, after the titles we jump to the bar, which has repeatedly shown up throughout the season. This is where the dance was at, and it's also where Joel punched Seth. The next day it's where Ellie got the apology and bigot sandwiches, and later on it's where they held the council meeting. So it's constantly popped up. Seth works here on both the bar and grill, and we see his interactions with Joel. You might also notice that he doesn't have his limp here. In episode 3, he said he caught some friendly fire on New Year's Day, which I thought was a little jab about Joel. Also thought maybe it meant he'd caught some friendly fire during a tour or something, and started theory timing that he was like potentially an Iraq war vet. But I was wrong. The official podcast cleared it up and said it happened during the Horde. That all went down the day after the party, which happened on New Year's Day, so he caught one in the leg whilst he was defending Jackson. The Seth of Us game will explore this in more detail down the line. Calling Joel a new guy, we learn this is 2 months after the end of season 1, and in that time, he's been out looking for Lego. Guy managed to find it even when Seth couldn't, and hey, if you've played the game, then you'll know Joel goes over everything, like the same room, 400 times. Constantly hitting the triangle button until I get 3 screws. Ignore all the knives lying around. I need to craft a shiv from some broken scissors. It's also funny to see how Lego's still just as sought after and expensive in this pandemic as it was during the COVID-19 one. I just wish I could trade stuff instead of paying money at the Lego store. It's through this conversation though that we learn Seth used to be a cop. Obviously it plays into Joel's father, but beyond that, Joel's disobedience for the law. Joel was a constant rule breaker, and whether it was smuggling, killing the fireflies, or just everything in general, he was always wary around authority figures. I love how all the bottles have hand-drawn labels on them, and it's a nice touch because obviously they can't produce stickers and stuff. Kinda like how all the sports kits had hand-drawn numbers on. Going to Ellie's room, we then see a Kurt Cobain poster outside of it. This wasn't present there in episode 3 because obviously she took it with her, and she also wore Converse to model herself after him. Nirvana's self-titled Greatest Hits came out in 2002, and I remember a huge resurgence in their popularity. It might be why there's so many Nirvana items to be found, as the outbreak of course takes place in 2003. As Joel goes in, we also see a poster for the in-universe character Savage Starlight. Now it turns out that Joel's been fixing up Ellie a guitar, and he's been trading with Seth so he can go make her a birthday cake. This guitar though, it's very important, but in the game, you didn't actually learn who made it, and I always just assumed you kinda grabbed it along the way. However, this adds a much more personal touch and highlights how Joel's changed. In the game, you'd often use benches like this to modify weapons, and that was to go out and kill. Here though, Joel's fixing something up as an act of love. In episode 3, we saw he was also making animal statues, including an owl that appears on his coffee cup later. I don't think it's a coincidence that we then cut at the watch that Sarah got fixed for him. It's of course still broken, but it serves as a reminder of his daughter. In his mind, he's found purpose again with his surrogate one, and this is making her a guitar. It was always kind of sad how when Ellie found it in the box, she just brushed it to the side and got the gun. It kind of cemented that all the things in Joel's life, they'd just been cast to the side, and now the focus was purely on revenge. Joel then inscribes the moth, which is Ellie's symbol. That moth is also part of our t-shirt line, which you can get on these double-sided prints in the merch store. We just launched our Seraphite shirt as well. This contains either single or double-sided prints with both a scar symbol and also a seraphim angel. There we also have our Hardcordyceps mouth design, our clickers one, because he's clicking, and also our WLF shirt. We're running a super spreader sale where if you buy 2 you get 15% off, and if you buy 3 you get 20. Massive crazy deals. Get your new Seraphite shirt now, get your WLF one as well, and huge thank you for all your support. Now the piece is then broken by Ellie, who's in the aftermath of chemical burning her arm. Joel also calls her
Easy, baby girl.
which is something he referred to Sarah as.
Come on, baby girl. Come on, baby girl. I gotta get you up.
But yeah, he's obviously panicking here as Ellie's burned herself up really badly. In the game, you actually start off going to visit her, and you might notice there's a bandage on her arm there. I never put 2 and 2 together, but it's nice getting these infos of why it happened. Ellie says she just wants to wear short sleeves shirts as she's obviously had to hide her bite. Jumping forward, we then get some nice touches around Ellie's room. The first is her flick knife, which is stabbed into the wood, just like how it was in episode 2 and at the start of the game as you leave for patrol. We also have the curtains blowing behind it, which was the title screen for the first game. This was then adapted into the ending of the Bill and Frank episode, and it helps to highlight peace. Next we cut to some tapes, namely Aha's, and Ellie of course sang Take On Me to Dina. She had an Aha tape back in Boston which we saw in season 1. We then have a moth and several of her sketches. Ellie would often do these in the game, and she had a collection in her books. She has a dinosaur and space shuttle as well, which foreshadow the birthday trip later in the episode. Overall, I feel like this is perfectly shot to mirror Sarah waking up in episode 1. There we got a focus on the curtains and then her waking up in bed. She then went down to make Joel breakfast and we learned it was his birthday. There was even talk of getting him a cake. Here it's a sort of flip on that as Joel got up before Ellie and went down and had one ready. It shows how he's not taking her for granted and wants to be there for every special moment, even though he didn't get the name on in time. Joel then gives her the guitar. It's akin to how he hands it over in the game, but we know it has a much more personal touch. You might also remember in season 1, slash part 1 of the game, Joel promised to teach her to play when they were on the highway. It's now coming out from that and he plays her Future Days by Pearl Jam. This becomes the pair's song and it's something Ellie repeatedly plays throughout the game. That song wasn't actually released until 2013 with the show taking place in 2003. The creative team have said sod it though because it's such an important song for the pair. It's all about the potential of loss and how someone would lose the person they are if they lost the person they love. However, they are hopeful and optimistic and see brighter future days ahead together. Now, Ellie doesn't get those future days with Joel and she ends up losing who she is. So it's quite poignant. They do bring it around for the end of the game. I'll not spoil the end of that, but we might talk about in the spoiler section. We will spoil you. That's what it's called now. And I can imagine that they'll probably adapt it into the show a lot earlier due to including it here. I feel like Ellie also sees how singing to someone can be an expression of love, which may have inspired her serenading Dina later on in the timeline. Also, Pedro Pascal can't sing for shit.
Try and sometimes you'll succeed.
Try and sometimes you'll succeed.
To make this man of me.
To make this man of me.
Well, that didn't suck.
Well, that didn't suck.
Are you sure about that?
Joel handing this over is just like the game though, and it also explains why he was so torn up seeing it tossed to the side in episode 1. He then took this, clearly representing how he was going back in on himself and putting his walls back up.
Happy birthday, kiddo.
Now that then takes us to Ellie's birthday the following year. In the game you end with her playing the guitar and then cut to her playing it in the past. Adapting the museum flashback, we then see the pair moving through the woods.
Is it a dinosaur?
A dinosaur!
Is it a lot of kittens?
Is it a lotter of kittens?
You mean a litter?
What's a litter?
A bunch of kittens.
A lotter? You mean a litter?
A litter of kittens?
Is it a convertible?
Is it a convertible?
Oh my god, it is a dinosaur!
Oh my god. It is a dinosaur!
Ellie, be careful.
God. Careful.
Look at me! I'm on a motherfucking dinosaur!
I'm on a motherfucking dinosaur!
This guessing game's such a great moment in the game, and they adapted across perfectly, even down to Joel's shirt. They also bring up Jesse and how Ellie wants to man the wall.
I hear the way Jesse talks about it.
I see the way you look at him.
No, I've got a pretty keen eye for these sort of things.
I got a keen eye for these sort of things.
Not so keen with this one.
I don't think you do.
It's pretty much all verbatim from the game, and a really nice father and daughter moment. Ellie also tells Jesse later on in the game how Joel thought she was into him.
Joel liked you a lot too, you know. He used to think I had a crush on you.
She later ends up training under his lead, which we saw during episode 1. That they kinda touch upon here. They do skip out on Joel pushing Ellie into the water and then Joel doing the same thing. The section's a bit more dragged out in the game, and I do like that they cut it down, because all these sections, on a replay I'm like, I've played through this before, get to the point, but you can't skip the unskippable walking cutscene. We then get Ellie climbing up the T-Rex and standing on the top. This is something you can also do in the game, and I love that they brought it across. In the game, you can then jump off and land in some water. The pair then go to the museum, which is what you explore in the source material. It's such a great moment in which the pair bond, and you remember the actual happy moments Ellie had. They recapture the entire setting perfectly, including the room with all the planets.
Did you know this was here?
How long have you known about this place?
Hey, Joel, can you name all the planets?
Also like the touch of Joel saying someone must have greased the crank, as it shows how much he was planning this special day. However, they cut down the museum tour a bit. There you go through the dinosaur exhibit and even get a hat. Ellie actually had this in her room in episode 2, but we skip over seeing it here. Where they go next though is another big moment from the flashback. Coming across the shuttle cockpit node thing, we then see as Ellie opens up the craft. There's also astronaut suits lining it, and you grab a helmet just like the game.
But now, hold on just a minute. You're going into space, you're gonna need a helmet.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. You're going up to space. You need a helmet.
So cool.
How's it smell in there?
How's it smell in there?
Like space. And dust.
Like space and dust.
There Ellie just picks it off the stand, but hey, everyone loves a bit of vandalism. It fits Bella Ramsey's portrayal much better, as she's much more rough around the edges than video game Ellie. Putting it on, the pair then climb in and she imagines takeoff. Perfectly captures the scene, including the cassette tape. Metaphorically, it shows Ellie's wish to escape this world, much in the same way the astronauts did. Well, escape's the wrong word there, but you know what I mean. For a very brief moment, though, she gets to be a kid again and just escape from a world filled with fear and infected, and death. The screen then turns orange like the takeoff before then going blue. Just like that cutscene captures it all perfectly, including the angles we see Ellie at.
20 seconds and counting. 20 seconds and counting. T-minus 15 seconds. Guidance is internal. T-minus 15 seconds. Guidance is internal. 12, 11, 10, 9. 12, 11, 10, 9. Ignition sequence start. Ignition sequence start. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Liftoff. We have a liftoff. Liftoff. We have a liftoff. 32 minutes past the hour. Liftoff on Apollo 11. 32 minutes past the hour. Liftoff on Apollo 11.
It's also kind of like how in the game Ellie imagined playing the arcade machine in the Left Behind DLC, except in the show the arcade machines actually work. We then see as the pair head out, which handles things differently to the game. For the show, Ellie just stares at some fireflies, which symbolizes it itching away at her brain. Things like, well, why did you have to rush me out of the hospital? Why was I still in a hospital gown? Why didn't you hit the thumbs up? How did they get away? Where's all the other immune people? They're all things that would just itch away in her mind. She snapped out of her imagination, similar to how Tommy snaps her out of a daydream, like when he taught her how to snipe. She also ends up practicing asking these questions later, as Joel's story is just full of holes. So symbolically, this plays in how it's always in the back of her head, and she can't truly escape from it or even have a moment of happiness without it starting to creep in. I also really liked how the questions were all written down. Jessie earlier in the season told her to not be angry when trying to get the town on her side, so we saw her write down her speech and appeal for help to get justice for Joel. So here it seems like she's trying to be calm and collected in confronting Joel about what happened and get justice for what really went down that day. I'm sure everyone kind of plans stuff out in their head for how they're going to handle situations, and then in reality it never goes down like that. This is something we see at the end of the episode, and she doesn't use the piece of paper. She's just very clear. She knows he was lying. Now in the game, you continue your journey into the museum. Ellie can sneak into spaces that Joel can't, and thus she goes ahead to find a way to let him in. However, it's pretty eerie in here. She comes across a body and also a note detailing the fall of the Fireflies. Whoever this was said in their mind they could justify all the horrible things they'd done for the group because they were being told that they're basically building towards something better. In the end though, this all proved to be for nothing. Ellie then comes across a graffiti tag that says liars. It reminds her of the vaccine and reignites a lot of questions within her. This section also had a bunch of butterflies and maybe moths in it too, which may also be a deep cut or might be reaching. From here we then jump to 1 year later, which again is Ellie's birthday, which I really appreciated as a framing device as well. Joel's got better at making cakes and he's now even got her whole name on it. Going upstairs, Joel switches to listen mode and hears something's going on. Finding Kat getting ready, this is Joel finding out that Ellie's gay. He's also doing a drug dog, smoking a fat doobie, 420, and also has a tattoo. I'm guessing the weed though, I'm guessing that comes from Eugene, and yeah, Joel, don't feel bad about killing him, mate. He sells drugs to kids. Obviously though, we've had it touched upon that Ellie used to be hooking up with Kat, as Dina said she should ask her to the dance. She also said how she left her mark, and we see Kat grabbing her tattoo stuff. In the game, she was the one who gave her it, and it was all part of the Lost Levels stuff which was released with the director's cut. That went over some of their time together, and also how Kat inked up Ellie. Throughout the game, her tattoo goes through different stages of progression, and it highlights whereabouts in the story we are. Mainly because the flashbacks aren't handled in one block like this. Joel is also annoyed because it's like all the teenage stuff at once. To me though, I kinda see it as him once more losing his little girl. Every day I spend time with my kids, it does hit me at some point that they're not going to be these bubbly little boys that are always asking questions and wanting to hang out with their dad. So I try and make the most of it, but it's kinda sad knowing this time won't last forever. I feel like all parents hit a point like Joel where their kids become someone different and you lose that child forever.
We'll discuss this later when you're yourself.
Which I imagine is exactly what it feels like. Like, I remember being a teenager, my mum asking if I'd sit on her knee. Sounds weird, mate, but well, it was to me, and still a bit weird now. But yeah, she clearly wanted that feeling of having her little boy back. Too much information, maybe. But I'm a big boy now, ma'am. Don't look at the toys behind me. I'm an adult. You might also notice around the room we have a Nirvana and Pearl Jam poster as well. Radiohead Creep is on there later on too. She's also drawn a Nirvana poster like she had in episode 1 above her workbench. As well as this, it's a drawing that just says Linkin Park. Punk. It's like PG graffiti. I love rap. Either way, Joel slams the door and is clearly having difficulty dealing with the change. The guy's never been good at handling loss, and in a way, he surely loses himself. As the storm rages on, Ellie then decides to move out into the garage. We see her with her hood up in the rain, which visually foreshadows where we leave things at the end. Moving out is obviously another big thing when it comes to being a kid, and that's another thing I remember my mum being pretty sad about. Hearing her moving out in the middle of the night, she gets so close to doing the "you're not my dad" speech, which she later says in a sort of indirect way.
I'm not your fucking kid, Joel.
But technically, this is in his house as it was gifted to him by Jackson. This belonged to someone before the outbreak and they don't really own it. But there's nothing he can really do. Ellie isn't his kid and he has to accept he can't control her life now. He also never got to this part of being a parent with Sarah as she died at a young age. As he said in episode 1, it's all new to them both. It's something they touch upon in the game as you find a dead man at the aquarium. Turns out he lived there with his kids and there's lots of their drawings and possessions. However, at some point they grew up and then became indoctrinated. The kids left to join the Scars and it obviously broke their dad's heart. He took his own life and yeah, it was a really tragic thing to come across. It discusses how kids become different people and this can often put them at odds with their parents. Joel's still taking an interest though and he looks over her tattoo. Noticing the moth, I think he sees it as her kind of building off what he put on the guitar. It comes from her dreams and Joel initially takes it as being similar to a butterfly. They represent change and transformation. But a moth represents death. You could see this as being on a symbolic level, as the more we see moths, the more the relationship between them dies. We also have Joel's death around the corner and Eugene's coming as well. Gail is the one who explains the meaning of the moth, and this could foreshadow her husband's passing. The conversation here is sort of a flip on the therapy session, and it's the first time Joel goes out to her. She's her usual abrasive self, and even brings up the Dr. Booth from Peanuts. You might also notice that she's reading Earth Abides. This was actually hinted to us in the Weeks Ahead trailer, but you couldn't see the full bottom of the title. However, eagle-eyed viewers, they pointed it out to Kevin's spoilers. YouTube user exploring R3KBC actually did a big explanation in the comments saying what it was and how it applies to the show. The story came out in 1949 and was written by author George R. Stewart. The story is about a man named Isherwood Williams who survives a global pandemic. His name's shortened to Ish and he hides out in the mountains. Upon returning to the world, he finds scattered survivors and attempts to rebuild a community. The book discusses how once civilization fades, we start to ask deeper questions about what civilization is. Things like the grander questions, intellectual pursuits, they'd probably be quickly abandoned. Humanity would instead focus on more immediate problems and the practical ways to survive day to day. That's something The Last of Us of course tackles, with the show discussing lots of aspects of humanity. At its core, it feels like it's dealing with how people make sense of their lives and try to find meaning. Whether that's Bill and Frank, or Joel and Ellie, or hell, even the Revenge Mission, it's all people trying to find something to live for. Rather than simply just surviving, they want to survive for a reason. So thematically it works really well, but the game and show have given further nods to it. You might remember back in season 1 that Joel and Ellie came across a nursery underground, which just so happened to have someone there called Ish. In the game, you learn much more about him through the notes you find throughout the world. Turns out he survived by hiding on a boat and then went ashore looking for supplies. Here he found the sewers and eventually built it into a base. However, he eventually needed to go and get more resources. Travelling into the nearby suburbs, he came across a young family. Trading with them, he ended up returning to the sewers, but something within him yearned for connection. Eventually, Ish reached out to them and invited them to come live at his hideout. Again, it ties in that idea of surviving for a reason and building something instead of living alone. Over time, they invited more people in and eventually built out a thriving group. There were schools, sports, and little touches that made them feel human. However, one day someone messed up and left the door open. The infected flooded the area and some managed to escape. This included Ish, though his fate beyond this was left in the air. Druckmann actually planned to have a note in the Left Behind DLC that would indicate the character survived. However, he felt this was too coincidental and would rather his fate be left up to the player's imagination. And I feel like he's off living his life. But yeah, that's a very important book about community and what it means to be human. Anyway, Joel asks her about the moth, and I wish he'd told me it was a moth back when we were selling t-shirts in episode 1. Kept calling it a bloody butterfly. Refusing to answer why though, Joel ends up going back to Ellie. Parental advisory sticker, mate. That's how you know she's a teenager. Your CDs have got swearing on. You're tough, mate. Well, I'ma say it! We see her packing things up, including Zamfir's The Lonely Shepherd. You might know this from the recent-ish use in Kill Bill Volume 1, which, when I was writing this, hit me. It's 22 years old, that film. Not recent at all. I feel like that's why Ellie might have got it though, as it was released in the year of the outbreak. Never got to see Volume 2, but if you guys want to see a breakdown of both, they're out now on the channel. Kill Bill is of course a story of revenge, and it sees a woman going on a mission to kill those that wronged her. And killed the person she loved, which you can kind of apply to what Ellie's doing in Seattle. Either way, we see how Ellie's fully moved into the garage. The wall's still a little bare compared to how it would be later on, but lots of her posters are up there. There's astronaut ones and also a sketch of a giraffe. Practicing asking Joel questions, it's clear she's thought about his lies a lot. Getting ready to go on their first patrol, it initially starts off exciting. Finally, Ellie's being seen as an adult and even is asking about the record of kills because that's what she wants to live up to, but it's not all fun and games. It's the easiest and safest trail they've got though, yay! Just traumatize you for the rest of your life. Now, they do change up a lot of things from the games. In those, we have a flashback where Ellie and Tommy are sniping in the hills. They're training her while clearing the infected, and it's something they adapted into episode 1. Like it was even at the ski lodge. Tommy then takes Ellie to Joel, but it's clear there's something shaky between the pair. Something's off, but Joel's acting oblivious. Saying they should go get new strings for the guitar, the pair then set off on a route. Getting to the hotel, it's here, shit goes down. They come across a wealth of infected and then even go toe to toe with a bloater. It's a big scene, but I can totally see why they cut it out. In the end, they get to a bar, which is where they find bodies. These belong to Adam and Sydney, who we learn fled from Jackson. Turns out they ran into a horde and then both got bit. They decided to end it before it came to that, but Adam just shot Sydney and then couldn't do it to himself. It's horrifying, and then Ellie starts to feel guilty.
Only they were immune, right? After you took me out of the Firefly Hospital, you said there were dozens of people like me. I've never met another immune person before.
I could be hiding it.
Do you believe that? We traveled across the entire country to bring me to the Fireflies. I had so many questions for them. Why did you pull me out of there while I was still unconscious?
There was no cure.
That sort of plays off the questions list, and it's clear she's starting to doubt him. This festers in her mind, and eventually she goes back to the hospital. I'm really surprised they didn't bring this into the show, saying as they've used the set for several things. It of course appeared in season 1, and we also had it showing up as part of Abby's nightmare. So I was surprised they didn't reuse it since they already had it. Upon reaching it, Ellie learns the truth and finds recordings and notes saying what happened. It's heartbreaking for her, and outside she sees as Joel arrives. He actually also gave some of the dialogue from these recordings to Nora last week, and it discussed Abby's dad.
Even if we found her, or by some miracle found someone else that's immune, it'd make no difference. Because the only person who could develop a vaccine is dead.
Joel then arrived and the pair talked it out. Ellie said to tell her what happened, and if he lied again, he'd never see her again. If he told the truth, she'd promise to go back to Jackson, no matter what it is.
Making a vaccine would have killed you, so I stopped them.
This scene gets repurposed to the end, and thus Ellie doesn't necessarily have the time to reflect on it like she does here. We'll talk on that more in just a bit though. Ellie was completely devastated, and it robbed her of the choice to decide whether to die for that cause or not. To her, her life was supposed to be for a bigger reason, but now everyone's doomed. Eventually, every community will either run into a horde or be taken by raiders. No matter what expansion they make, they'll either unearth some roots that signal the infected, run into some spores potentially, or yeah, just get murdered. Just very, very difficult to thrive in this world. People are having to live day to day and living in constant fear or becoming alcoholics like Gale to numb things. Call for backup, Joel then tells her to go back, but she refuses. You can tell it hurts him hearing her defiance, but he hasn't got time to argue. You can also hear on the radio that it's Adam and Eugene who need help. This is a nice reference to the Adam in the game, like we mentioned earlier. I do wonder if they were carrying out that murder pact there, but then Eugene was like, look, I have to get back to my wife, I'm not going to do it yet. We also hear Joel's voice on the left speaker as he's off screen. Maybe a nuclear level reach, but in the games, the voices will be either on the left or right speakers / earbuds, depending on where the companions or enemies are. Rushing through the woods, we see them having to hike to the forest. You might remember early in the season that Tommy mentioned the forest was extremely dangerous. It's a place where the fungus can thrive, and you never know if you're stepping on some roots. It's a really tense scene, including the guy getting dragged by the horse. That might actually be Adam, so scrap the murder pack thing. You might also notice that Ellie's tattoos filled in more, which we can see on her hand. Coming across the infected, they then discover Eugene. Admitting he's bitten, he just wants to say goodbye to his wife. He has so much to say, and clearly it's the most important thing to him. Getting him to hold out his hand, Ellie then tests him. Obviously she's immune and isn't worried about potentially getting bit. And to be honest, Joel could easily just escort him. Pointing out his bite wound, this is also done to show he's bitten on his side. In season 1 we see a poster that explains how long it will take you to turn based on where you've been bitten. The torso is 2 to 8 hours, which plenty of time. Telling Ellie to get the horses, he then promises to take him back. However, what he's really doing is getting Ellie out the way so he can kill him. It's pretty bad and kind of acts as a reminder to who Joel really is. Though we never saw much of Joel's time after the outbreak to meeting Ellie, we know he did a hell of a lot of bad things. He always justified it though, and once more he's justifying lying and killing him. Even telling Eugene you can always see the face of those you love. It's basically him taking his chance to see his wife for the last time. Just in the same way he took away that chance for Ellie and lied, he's now doing the same thing. Joe Pantoliano really kills it here, and even though it's a small role, he does a lot. Eugene begs for her face to be the last thing he sees, which is something he doesn't get, and it kind of comes full circle with Joel. In his death, the last thing he saw was Ellie across from him. However, she was screaming and beaten up, and it was a really tragic sight for him. I think Eugene just accepts his fate and makes the most of the time he has. Knowing he won't see her physically, he visualizes it right before his death. It's a really somber moment, but now Joel has to deal with what he's done. Ellie arrives with the horses and is completely distraught at what she sees. It's such an impactful moment, and they then drag his body back to Jackson. This is in a white sack, which is akin to how Ellie would later drag back Joel. Joel is already cooking up a story though, and he says it's the right thing to do. Ellie thinks people should just be told the truth though, and is fed up with Joel's lies. Rattling off a story to Gale about how Eugene ended it himself, he says that he didn't want to put her in danger. And it seems like it's exactly what she needs to hear. Pedro acts expertly here as he delivers the story, but he's clearly making it up as he goes along. Gale may not believe him, but it might just be what she wants to believe. However, Ellie throws a curveball and tells the truth. Completely devastating, and it shows how much he's fed up with Joel. Gale is gutted as well. You do kind of wonder who was right here, as I don't know, would you really want to know that? It's obviously going to be much more painful, and it then tears the pair apart. Jumping to New Year's Eve, this is what would become Joel's last night on Earth. Seeing the dance from his perspective, it's something we weren't privy to in the game. Sat there with Maria and Tommy, we see the whiskey return from the start. Saying see you next year, this is actually the last time the two brothers talk. Tommy's also a dad now, so it's in his nature to drop the legendary dad joke. Now in the game, Tommy rode out with him on patrol, but for the show they gave that position to Dina. So again, this is the last time he ever sees his brother alive. Maria also talks about how helping family out is important, but not when it comes to avenging Joel, Tommy? Joel then goes off to help Ellie, but we see she berates him. Still hurts her now, and guy was Guy was just trying his best, mate. Joel, like his father, was doing what he thought was right, but this came through pain and violence. So Joel ends up walking out much like his dad at the start of the episode. He's completely defeated, and yeah, it's devastating. Grabbing the guitar, we then get the porch scene playing out. Like for real this time. Back in episode 1, we thought it was weird they skipped over this as it was such a massive part of the game. Her having the guitar the next day though, that did seem to tease it happened. I was so happy seeing her silhouette drift back in, and yeah, I'm really glad we got to see this playing out.
What are you drinking?
What are you drinking?
Coffee.
Coffee.
Where'd you get that?
Where'd you get it?
Those people that came through last week.
The people that came through last week?
I'm a little embarrassed as to what I had to trade to get it, but it's not bad.
I'm a little embarrassed for what I traded to get it, but it's not bad.
I had Seth under control.
I had Seth under control.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I know.
And you need to stop harassing Jesse about my patrols.
And I don't want to ever hear about you taking me off patrol again.
Okay.
Okay.
Dina,
So, Dina,
is she your girlfriend?
is she your girlfriend now?
That was just one kiss. It doesn't mean anything. She just...
It was just one kiss. Doesn't mean anything.
I don't know why she did that.
I don't know why she did that.
But you do like her.
But you do like her?
So stupid.
So stupid.
I have no idea what that girl's intentions are, but
Look, I don't know what Dina's intentions are, but
I do know that she would be lucky to have you.
well, she'd be lucky to have you.
You're such an asshole.
You're such an asshole.
Tell me what happened here.
Tell me what happened with the fireflies.
If you lie to me one more time, I'm gone.
If you lie to me again, we're done.
Making a vaccine would have killed you.
Gonna cure would have killed you.
I'm not trying to.
I was supposed to die in that hospital. My life would have fucking mattered. But you took that from me.
Then I was supposed to die. That was my purpose. My life would have fucking mattered, but you took that from me.
If somehow the Lord gave me a second chance at that moment, I would do it all over again.
But if somehow I had a second chance at that moment, I would do it all over again.
I don't think I can ever forgive you for that.
I don't think I can forgive you for this.
But I would like to try.
But I would like to try.
Joel also has his Al cup here, which again we mentioned earlier. Guy of course loves coffee and needed a nice mug to drink it in. The moment of them standing looking over the balcony, that also mirrors several things from part 1. The shot looking to Boston was done like this, as was the time after they saw the giraffes. Kind of broke my heart seeing Joel asking about Dina, especially because we know what's coming. Ellie says though that she knows Joel lied to her. I was actually really surprised they combined it into this moment because it means that Ellie basically has a night to get over it. Whereas in the game it was a lot longer. Ellie sees Joel as dooming the world just to save one person. He knows that it comes with a cost though, but he just couldn't lose another kid. It's honestly one of the best scenes in the game and show, and I was so glad they captured it this well. They had some additional dialogue as well about if Ellie ever has a kid. As we know, she's gonna be a dad, and Joel then says he hopes she does a little better than him. It echoes his father's words from the start, and it's a perfect way to tie these two flawed men together. In the end, Ellie says she doesn't know if she'll forgive, but she'd like to try, which is what comes of that cutscene as well. In a way, I believe them, and I believe in future days of you and me, now I think of it. Ellie of course has that robbed from her, and thus she goes on a quest for revenge. This is what's pushing her. She lost that future that she'd finally accepted. In the game, Ellie felt like she'd been robbed of a death that meant something. Moving on from that, she then felt like she'd been robbed of a life that meant something as well. So it was a double blow, and again, it ties in that idea of purpose and what it means to live. She actually also had this on her mock drawings. It said, "You have a greater purpose" on it. The scene also pretty much confirms that Joel knew the Fireflies could save humanity with the cure. It's called a vaccine in the game, but here it's a cure. There's discourse around whether the term vaccine was accurate or not for what the Fireflies wanted to do, and Matt Pat's actually done a fantastic video if you want to watch that and basically see why they picked different words for it. Joel, he knew he was damning humanity as he loved his adopted daughter so much. He wasn't going to lose another kid and thus strip the world of its cure. I also really appreciate they just combined all this stuff, as while the flashbacks are great to see in the game, they do wreck the pacing of playing it somewhat, which is a critique of the game as a whole. The pacing's all over the place. We have essentially almost 3 games in one, with Ellie's quest, the flashbacks, and then Abby's story in the back half of the game, and then another section after that. So it's either impact the pacing of the show and have the game 1-for-1 or condense things down. I think they made the right choice though, and having the porch scene much earlier in the show combined with the hospital talk, it works pretty well. We then close out with Ellie returning to the theatre, now looking down and defeated. Having just killed Nora, she's losing the person that she was. It ties into the themes of future days on how she's now lost herself. It closes out what I think was a really impactful episode and definitely the most character development we've had this season. As mentioned earlier, I used to dread these parts of the game because they just drag on and on. I think this handled those moments brilliantly though. I think Bella's struggled with some parts of the season because she just doesn't really feel like the older Ellie I played for like the last 5 years. Dear me, it's been that long. However, I think she did a fantastic job here, and it was great seeing her actually going through the phases of growing up. Pedro was also excellent as well, and it was so good seeing him back. I don't know how much adding the porch scene here is going to change the actual ending, because it's quite an important thing that changes Ellie. I'm glad we got it here though, as it felt like a really great personal entry. Obviously though, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Do you miss the infected? Do you think they handle the flashbacks better here? Have you even played the game? What's your favourite colour? Comment below and let me know. Now as for next week, I think we're fitting the entire rest of the game into the last episode. So obviously, I think going off this episode, we kind of know where things are going to go. I'm going to be talking about that for the rest of the video, and therefore it's going to be filled with spoilers for the game. Because of that, I'm giving you a chance to back out if you don't want the finale potentially spoiled in the potentially spoiled section of the video. Just leave now. Go. I won't miss you. Now, they may end up doing things differently, but going off the game, I think we know pretty much where stuff's going to end on. I think next week's obviously going to focus on Ellie Seattle Day 3, and that involves her heading out with Jesse and coming across the Scars, Wolves, and Infected. Eventually, they hit a point though where they have to make a decision. They hear where Tommy's at, and Jesse wants to go back him up. However, Ellie doesn't want to. They're close to the aquarium, and it comes down to what she really values. Does she want to finally get Abby or go and help Tommy? Well, ultimately her personal goals go above it, and she and Jesse end up parting ways. Driven by revenge, she travels to the aquarium with the area currently rocked by a storm. Capsizing and having to swim to the shore, she finds Abby's space eerily quiet. Suddenly she's attacked by a dog which she kills, and then comes across Owen and Mel. She ends up killing them both and also discovers Mel's pregnant. So it reflects what's going on with Dina. Ellie's thirst for revenge isn't quenched either. Abby isn't there, and then Joel and Jesse arrive to take her back to the theatre. They decide that it's time to depart, and then head back to Jackson and have a happy ending. However, before they can leave, crap hits the fan. Turns out Ellie dropped her map at the aquarium, and Abby ends up finding this. She's now come back to take some more revenge and quickly beats the group. Taking Tommy by surprise, she also ends up shooting Jesse stone cold dead. Like, it comes out of nowhere and it's a big shot. All hope seems lost for Ellie, and that then ends the game's first act. From that point on, you then play through the 3 days of Seattle from Abby's perspective, which I imagine will be Season 3. I think that's probably the point we'll break out, with Season 3 then telling her story. I can imagine we'll get 3 episodes there, in the same way that we had 3 episodes in Seattle. Well, 4, but like, this one was mainly a Joel and Ellie story. That would then leave another 3 episodes for Ellie's final act, and I can imagine that will wrap up Season 3. If they do 7 episodes again, because who knows, seasons seem to be getting shorter. Season 1 was 9 episodes, what the hell happened? But yeah, that makes sense when you think about how the structure of the story's told and how things were broken up here. Anyway, Dina and Ellie go and live on a farm after the events of Seattle. Tommy brings word he's heard of where Abby is, and then Ellie sets off in the night to go and get her. This ends up destroying her relationship with Dina, as she says she can't go through this entire thing again, which ties into the song that comes full circle at the end. Ellie's fingers then get cut off in her final fight with Abby, and after letting her live, she then returns to the farm. Finding it empty, Dina's left and took the kid with her. Ellie then goes upstairs and finds the guitar, which she goes to play Future Days on. However, due to her missing fingers, she can't do it, and she's now lost the thing that connected her to Joel. It's really poignant, and it speaks to how revenge has cost her everything. She then leaves, and we pan to the window, bringing things full circle from that window shot earlier. So I'm guessing that will be how we end Season 3, but we'll see after the finale next week. I'd of course love to see you back for that. Come back. finale, yeah, it's a finale, so please come back. I'm begging, the viewership's dead. And please drop a like as well, and also a comment. Did you know that members of the channel also get early access to videos every week? For just $12 a year, 99 cents a month, you're going to be getting all our early breakdowns made before anybody else. Huge thank you to everyone who's supporting that, and if you want something else to watch, you've got a breakdown on screen right now. Did you watch Andor Season 2? You want to hear us talk about it? Well, that's on screen right now, and I'll see you over there. But out of the way though, thanks for watching this video. I've been your host Paul, you've been the best, and I'll see you next time. Take care, peace.